All right, good morning, School of Light. We are YouTube live. And real quick, School of Light is a Bible study correspondence course system. You want a Bible study that's doctrinally sound and will convenient that you can work on at your schedule. Ask us, we'll mail you one. And when you complete it, you send it back in our provided prepaid stamp envelope. It goes back to us. We grade it, we make record of it, and when you finish a series, you will receive a series of completion. I'm going to jump straight in to Leviticus chapter 25. And before I got on here, I was thinking to myself, what is all this chapter? What's the chapter about? And as you know, you have Sabbaths, right? 6 days you work, on the seventh day you rest. Well, there's also Sabbath years. The Lord said to Moses on Mount Sinai, "Speak to the Israelites and say to them, when you enter the land I am going to give you, the land itself must observe a Sabbath to the Lord. For 6 years sow your fields, and for 6 years prune your vineyards and gather their crops. But in this year 7, the land is to have a rest, a Sabbath to the Lord. Do not sow your fields or prune your vineyards. Do not reap what grows of itself or harvest the grapes of your untended vines. The land is to have a year of rest. Whatever the land yields during the Sabbath year will be food for you and for yourselves." That's how people burn crops. That's how they take most of the nutrients out of the soil, and that's why a lot of people are having to use nitrogen nowadays. Okay, whatever grows of itself or harvest the grapes of your unintended vines. The land is to have a year of rest. Whatever the land yields during the Sabbath year will be food for you and for yourselves and your manservant and your maidservant and the hired worker and temporary resident who lives among you, as well as for your livestock and the wild animals in your land. Whatever the land produces may be eaten. Count off 7 Sabbaths of 7 years, 7 times 7 years, so that the 7 Sabbaths of years amount to a period of 49 years. So this is called Jubilee. Then have the trumpet sounded everywhere on the 10th day of the 7th month, on the day of atonement. Sound the trumpet throughout your land. Consecrate the 50th year. Proclaim liberty throughout the land to all of its inhabitants. It shall be a jubilee for you. Each one of you is to return to his family property, and each to his own clan. The 50th year shall be a jubilee for you, and do not sow and do not reap what grows of itself or harvest the untended vines. For it is a jubilee, and it is to be holy for you. Eat only what is taken directly from the fields. In this year of jubilee, everyone is to return to his own property. If you sell land to one of your countrymen or buy any from him, do not take advantage of each other. You're to buy from your countryman on the basis of the number of years since the Jubilee, and he is to sell you on the basis of the number of years left for harvesting crops. When the years are many, you are to increase the price, and when the years are few, you are to decrease the price, because what he is really selling you is the number of crops. Very fair. Do not take advantage of each other, but fear your God. I am the Lord your God. Do not take advantage of each other, but fear your God. So, what's going on here? Let me try to give you an illustration. It's like buying a new used car, or or a lease. So, say for example, I have the property, and the year of Jubilee just ended, so I sell to you. That means you're gonna have. I'm not sure how to figure this math out, but you're either gonna have 6 or 7 years of crops before the next Jubilee, where it's a year of rest. I think. Is that right? 7, and then yeah. So as the Bible says here, what you're not really selling is the land, you're selling the number of crops. So another example is if Jubilees next year, you can grow your crops this year. You're really only going to get one crop before you have to let the land rest. So this is interesting. I've read through it and I've seen it, I'm sure, but I never really seen it. So I bring it to your attention. Follow my decree. Follow my decrees and be careful to obey my laws, and you will live safely in the land. Then the land will yield its fruit, and you will eat your fill and live there in safety. You may ask what you will eat in the seventh year if we do not plant or harvest our crops. Excuse me, guys. I will send you such a blessing in the sixth year that the land will yield enough for 3 years. While you plant during the eighth year, you will eat from the old crop and will continue to eat from it until the harvest of the ninth year comes in. Well, we all need some more crops, you know. I mean, even if you're wealthy and you have whatever your wealth is monetarily or uh, paper wise, commodity, whatever it is, golds, and so there's a thought, I guess, in America today that if you have a bunch, there's something's wrong with you. You need you're greedy or something, and you need to take it, sell it, and give it to everybody. And really doesn't it say that? Jesus tells a young rich man that one time, but the rest of the Bible doesn't say um, doesn't have that attitude like America does now, you know. And what the attitude is here in Leviticus, anyhow, is that if you do these things, don't worry about that seventh year that you're not receiving an income, because the income from the sixth year, right? The provisions on the sixth year will be 3 times all the other years. So it'll carry you to the ninth year. So don't worry about the seventh, because you still got 7, 8, and 9 that you're covered. And you have the beginning of these crops. So don't be anxious, maybe. Don't doubt. God has um, God has provided. You know, there's a verse in in Genesis, and I forget, I gotta write it down, man. But basically, the guy says, you know, I've been here and I've been there, and through it all I asked for and all I needed was the clothes on my back or my jacket. You know, I've never been without a jacket. I've never been cold, that type of thing. And so, yeah, it's nice, really nice to have means, financial or what other kinds of means. Um, However, don't put your, oh, what am I trying to say? Put your faith in God. Don't put it in in your boss, your kissing butt to your manager, or I mean, God is your provider, but the check isn't gonna say Jehovah, right? It's always gonna come through somebody. So if you're at that job and you feel that that's a place God wants you to be, work there as you're working unto the Lord, the Bible says. All right, before I just go on to all these tangents, my words are weak compared to God's. You may ask, what will we eat in the seventh day year? Okay. While you plant during the eighth year, you will eat from the old crop and will continue to eat until the harvest of the ninth year comes in. The land must not be sold permanently, because the land is mine and you are but aliens and my tenants. Ooh, boy. I like that. You know, there's a big difference between a God's outlook on properties, assets, golds, oils, mineral, whatever it is, right? Whatever the means is, the means, the financial means, or whatever the currency is. And in the Bible, or God's teaching, is just this. I mean, I've probably read through this thing a hundred times, many times, and today is like this one sentence. Really, I know I've read it, but I see it this today. The land must not be sold permanently, because the land is mine and you are but aliens and my tenants. Okay, so there's this weird thing in the world today, and I experienced it here in New Mexico, and it's greed for land. I had nearly had very close to being thrown in jail from a false, made up police report um, because those that had made the report don't, or how do I say it? They're envious and have jealousy, and they want land. You know, put me in prison, put me in jail, false reports, jeopardize uh, my my time with daughter, jeopardize my time with mom. But the truth is, okay, so the world looks at it like I got more land than you. I have more money than you. You can't hang around my circles unless you have this amount or something like that. And it's so freaking ugly, man. I've witnessed it here recently, and the whole freaking press uh, idea that one's better than the other because of land. Or so what does God say about land? How do you and I as Christian people look at properties, look at um, means, financial means, whatever kind of currencies, gold, silvers, cryptos, all the cars, whatever it is. And the way I understand the Bible teaches is very similar to what this is saying. It says the land is his. We are but aliens and his tenants. Okay. Now there's this other thing is further than being a tenant. It's well, it's very close to being a tenant, I guess, stewardship. And so stewardship, I think, is a little closer to God because, like a tenant, I've owned properties and rental properties in Tennessee, and a tenant is the guy that lives there. He's the guy that pays there. He takes care of his place, but really he doesn't have an obligation to maintain the property. He doesn't have an expectation to um, do anything more than just maintain his own little spot and to pay the rents, right? Now, a steward would almost be like if I had that same property or properties in Tennessee, and I'm here in New Mexico. So a steward would, in my thinking, I'm not the expert guy. That I'm trying, but in my thinking, a steward would be somebody I left, like say one of my best friends that I trusted, said, "Hey, I want you to manage this property. This is what I expect of you. This is what I expect it to look like." And as a result or as compensation, um, if it's run well, you'll receive this compensation. If it's not run well and it's falling apart, this is what you receive, and you have the chance of just being kicked off of the property management, right? I'll find somebody else. That's the thing, the difference between a tenant and a steward. Um, don't get so, um, enthralled, or I'm not sure what the word is, but don't get so in whatever you're striving for. A house, um, you're striving for $100,000 in the bank, or a million, or 5 million, or you want a Bentley, or you just, it's something simple. You really want two horses, you know, and that's all fine, nothing wrong with these things. Um, but keep in mind, they're not yours. Not even your horses are yours. Not even your cars are yours. You know, people first, and things are like a way second. They're like, I don't even know if they're in the top 10. Okay. People first, and material things after number 10. Whatever number 10 is. There's a lot of things that make a person wealthy beyond material things. Okay, so really, a lot of wealthy people, their list of what makes them wealthy, 1 through 10, doesn't have the bank account. It doesn't have their assets. It has their relationships. It has um, attitudes that they carry, love of family, those relationship with your creator. Those are the things that make a person wealthy. The material things, those number 11, 12, 13. And it's almost a result of the first. Having the wealth in these things here that are true wealth can yield to a little bit more or even a tremendous amount of material wealth. Wow, we are at 16 minutes and we are still in chapter 25. All right, verse 23, the land must not be sold permanently because the land is mine and you are but aliens and my tenants throughout the country that you hold as a possession. You must provide for the redemption of the land. If one of your countrymen becomes poor and sells some of his property, his nearest relative is to come and redeem what his countryman has sold. If, however, a man has no one to redeem it for him, but he himself prospers and acquires sufficient means to redeem it, he is to determine the value for the years since he sold it and refund the balance to the man whom he sold it. He can then go back to his own property, but if he does not acquire the means to repay him, what he sold will remain in the possession of the buyer until the year of Jubilee. It will be returned in the year of Jubilee, and he can then go back to his property. If a man sells a house in a walled city, he retains the right of redemption a full year after its sale. During that time, he may redeem it. If it is not redeemed before a full year has passed, the house in the walled city shall belong permanently to the buyer and his descendants. It is not to be returned to in the Jubilee. But houses in villages without walls around them are to be considered as open country, and they can be redeemed, and they are to be returned in the Jubilee. The Levites always have the right to redeem their house in the Levitical towns which they possess. The property of the Levites is redeemable. That is, a household in any town they hold is to be returned in the Jubilee, because the houses in the towns of the Levites are their property among the Israelites. But the pasture land belonging to the towns must not be sold. It is their permanent possession. If one of your countrymen becomes poor and is unable to support himself among you, help him as you would an alien or a temporary resident, so he can continue to live among you. Do not take interest of any kind from him, but fear your God, so that your countrymen may continue to live among you. You must not lend him money at interest or sell him food for profit. I am the Lord your God who brought you up out of Egypt to give you the land of Canaan and to be your God. If your countryman becomes poor among you and sells himself to you, do not make him work as a slave. He is to be treated as a hired worker or a temporary resident among you. He is to work for you until the year of Jubilee. Then he and his children are to be released, and he will go back to his own clan and to the property of his forefathers, because the Israelites are my servants, whom I brought up out of Egypt. They must not be sold as slaves. Do not rule over them ruthlessly, but fear your God. Your male and female slaves are to come from the nations around you. From them you may buy slaves. You may also buy some of the temporary residents living among you and the members of their clans born in your country, and they will become your property. You can will them to your children as inherited property and can make them slaves for life, but you must not rule over your fellow Israelites ruthlessly. If an alien or a temporary resident among you becomes rich, and one of your countrymen becomes poor and sells himself to the alien living among you or to a member of the alien's clan, he retains the right of redemption after he sold himself. One of his relatives may redeem him. An uncle, a cousin, or any blood relative in his clan may redeem him. Or if he prospers, he may redeem himself. He and his buyer are to count the time from the year he sold himself to the year Jubilee. The price for his release is to be based on the rate paid to a hired man for that number of years. If many years remain, he must pay for his redemption with a large share of the price paid for him. If only a few years remain until the year Jubilee, he is to compute that and pay for his redemption accordingly. He is to be treated as a man hired from year to year, and you must see to it that his owner does not rule over him ruthlessly. Even if he is not redeemed in any of these ways, he and his children are to be released in the year of Jubilee, for the Israelites belong to me as servants. They are my servants whom I brought out of Egypt. I am the Lord your God. The Israelites belong to me as servants. Okay, so well, one thing I want to notice is that, an alien, uh, which is a non-Israelite, it says if an alien or temporary resident becomes rich, one of your countrymen becomes poor and sells himself. So that's still true today. People that aren't following God, we call them aliens, aren't they prosper. They could prosper. Um, and then the last part here, I guess I made a note years ago, and it says Israelites belong to me as servants, right? They are my servants whom I brought out of Egypt. Verse 54, even if he is not redeemed in any of these ways, he and his children are to be released in the year of Jubilee, for the Israelites belong to me as servants. For the Israelites belong to me as servants. I put freedom down. I'm not sure how old this note is. So, they are my servants whom I brought out of Egypt. I am the Lord your God. So they went from a slavery, remember, slaves in Egypt, to serving God, kind of a slave, but not really, right? And then I put down freedom. Why? Why did I put down freedom? Well, because I guess the year of Jubilee, and also because they were slaves, and now that they're servants, in a way, kind of a slave, but not so much like real slaves, to God, in that is freedom. Yeah, there's a lot of things that, being a Christian now I can't do, or I will not do, because it's revealed. Don't do this. It's dangerous to you, your people, your soul, your whatever, your body. And so in a way, I have reduced freedom, but it's wise freedom. I don't need to be smoking crack. I don't need to smoke meth. I don't need to go and focus all my heart and mind on becoming wealthy. I don't have to. There's a lot of things, but when I spend time in here, yeah, I'm like a slave to God in a way, but I have more freedom, so much freedom. God bless. Hope you enjoyed. Chapter 26 will be next.